Yay, we synced up the podcast again.
It's a podcast.
We're getting
a
better at this.
real life podcast.
Is that like an internet mail?
Yes, an internet mail.
How
did you
nice.
know?
My son is very good with computers, and he helps me set up things like, have you heard of this website called thefacebook.com?
What are we doing to ourselves right now?
I don't know.
Bad things.
We should not be committing to this.
No,
terrible,
we shouldn't be.
Terrible idea.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
The best jokes are terrible.
Yep.
Okay, so,
all right, so let's
podcast.
actually get this started.
So do we want to, I don't know, can I hop into my complaints about life in the universe and everything?
Yeah, sure. This is
okay.
This is the grievance.
People have been
cast
telling
now.
me what to do more so than usual, and it's starting to drive me a bit nutty.
Yay!
Keith, did you see the image I linked to the podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Discussion?
So you did an AMA, right? For your 100,000.
well, I'm
By the way,
sort of
100,000
doing it right
subscribers.
Yay!
Yeah,
Wander got 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah, they still have
It's actually pretty cool.
Instead of being happy about that, we're going to complain.
Yeah. Well, I have to complain. So YouTube's supposed to be sending me a link to like how I can get my play button. Nothing. No surprise. Not really. Anyway. Anyway.
Is the silver play button 100,000?
Yeah.
When you hit 100,000, you get the silver play button, but there's nothing.
Then you literally have to multiply your channel by 10 to get the next one. No.
Yeah, so I'm
10.
just gonna have to wait for a while, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what
so.
I'm not entirely sure like what the exact requirements are to get the thing to show up, other than hit 100,000. I think they have to. I actually think they have to do it manually. Like,
there's already the weird thing where
Possibly.
YouTube has to wait an entire month to tally up your ad revenue, then wait an entire extra month to pay you that previous month's ad revenue. So who knows how long a play button might take to be noticed.
Well, apparently, according to some hearsay that I had, they do it so manually that like they send out the links to confirm that like this is sign up here to get your button. So they have to do that manually. But then they have to make them manually, and apparently they kind of wait until a number of people hit the milestone, because not that many
they do
people
have to
hit
batch it. It makes sense,
Yeah.
but
I mean, it makes sense, but like, it'd be really nice if they were really communicative about this.
Yeah.
So
I bet people hit 100,000 all the time compared to a million, though.
yeah, that's totally true. I
You'll
will
get it
say
just
though,
in time for when you reach a million.
yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I'll probably get it by the time I'm at like 110, 120,000 or something like that, but we'll see. It's might take a while. I'm in no rush though. I'm halfway tempted to send it to my parents just so I don't have to worry about moving it, because apparently the frames are utter garbage. So it's like, I mean, if I can just not have to worry about lugging this glass case around with a priceless life artifact.
Like winning
nice.
an Olympic gold medal, but it's made out of like that Christmas gelt, and it's just got a chocolate
I thought you
center.
said Christmas guilt.
I mean, for Bird, it's the same thing.
Well, that's for Catholic Christmas, right?
And Jewish,
Yeah,
from what I've heard.
a little bit. Anyway, so you were going to complain about things, Wander?
Okay, yeah. So now that I've hit 100,000, for whatever reason, pure coincidence probably, I've had like an influx of people trying to like tell me how to run my channel. Usually people like don't say anything, they're just like, yeah, whatever. Or like it's the like, play more Scrap Mechanic, but these are like people that are giving me like in-depth
Business.
critiques on like how to do what I do, and I'm like, this is not warranted, appreciated, or even like logical from your perspective. So I'm just gonna, I don't know, I guess I'm not gonna throw it up on my webcam because it would be impossible to read. I'm just gonna read it out loud. So to quote, just saying 8+ videos a day is far too much. Try 3 videos a day. And I checked your channel and it's good, but not getting enough views. You average 500+ views per video. Well, 10% would be 10,000 views per video. Which, I mean, technically he's not wrong. If I actually did like one video a day, I'd probably get more views per video.
I don't really see a lot of channels get 10% views though if they're Let's Play channels.
I see it if they're big, like Markiplier.
Yeah,
Jesse Cox.
That's when you're so big that your channel tends to get outside. Even though the videos are brand new, they get like crazy spam views.
Yeah,
from outsiders, just because it's so big that it shows up on the front page and random people are watching it that don't subscribe to anybody. But I've never really seen. Generally, I don't see Let's Players that even get 10% of their subscribers per video. It's really like the more review or creative works or like original content style channels, like review, like people that like do like let's review this week's movies in an unedited vlog, and people that do Let's Plays tend to get lower.
Yeah. But I had to look at the guy's channel.
Well, that's just the mark of somebody who knows like rules of thumb and has. That's about it.
I had to just look at the guy's channel to, see like, who is this person giving me the advice? And he gets like, I'm gonna say 30 views per video and 300 subs, and I'm just like, oh,
ow.
Yeah. That happens a lot. A lot of people try to tell you how to run your channel, but there are always people that don't know they don't know much about it, and they usually like watch some game theory video about subscriber burn and take it for verbatim, even though most of those videos
that
are just
video has been the fucking worst for years.
So I'm not going to say damaging to me, but like it's been the kind of consistent nightmare for me, where people are just like, subscriber burn. You must be suffering from subscriber burn. I'm like, I'm doing great. What are you talking about? For a while, I was getting more views than the completionist.
Oh, jeez.
But he just doesn't get a whole lot of views. He supplements with like live streams and a secondary channel, but still.
Right. But for me, like, it's just, there's the video about subscriber burn. There's Jim Sterling's video about playing copyright people against each other by spamming your video with other copyright sources. And then there's also every video ever complaining about Nintendo's YouTube policies that have all combined to just the average person having super misleading and inconsistent information about how YouTube works. But then they tell YouTubers how to YouTube based on their weird information. But like, we do it all day. We're just gonna know more about this stuff. You don't need to like try to teach us. If you want to tell us when games come out, that can be useful. Sometimes it's a surprise, like how freaking Shovel Knight suddenly got its newest expansion on the Nintendo Switch. And I had no idea that was happening because there are so many other games coming out around now. But we mostly know how to do YouTube. We do it a lot. Man, I'm frustrated that came out. Because I maxed out my schedule and I had things figured out, and I chose specific things to cut to finally make my schedule work for the month. Then I find out that the Shovel Knight Spectre thing came out on Switch, and I'm like, fuck. There's always more. Did you
end up covering it or nah?
No, I just don't have time. I'll get to it as soon as I can, because I love Shovel Knight, and Plague of Shadows was fantastic. Plague of Shadows was better than the original Shovel Knight campaign, probably. It's really interesting how they completely rework the entire character fundamentally, so you just are playing a different game, even though it's like the same tile sets and stuff.
This is the first of the like kind of DLC, right?
This is the second one.
This is the second one, yeah. Because there was the co-op one where you played as like the Plague Knight and stuff, and it was pretty cool.
The co-op was separate. So
the co-op is amiibo based.
Yeah, there was the original Shovel Knight release, and then to go with the Shovel Knight amiibo for the Wii U, you could unlock a co-op mode by scanning it. But then also they added Plague of Shadows to all platforms for free, where you play as Plague Knight, which is one of the bosses of the game, but he fundamentally controls differently. Because he
doesn't have upgrades.
What happens?
He has like a bunch of moves.
He throws potions at people, basically, and what happens is you have 3 separate equipment slots for how your potion works. The casing and the ingredient, or something like 3 different little things. One of them, the casing, affects how it moves when you press the throw button, so you can make it a straight projectile attack like Mega Man, or an arcing mortar shot, or you can make it that's something that literally spins around you like a mine, and like a bunch of other variations. One of them affects what the property of the attack is, like does it home in on people, or is it a normal bomb, or a cluster bomb, or is it a goopy poison thing, or like a bunch of things like that. And then the other thing affects how it detonates, which means like, do you want to detonate as like a vertical pillar, or as like there's things like that, like this. it's a 3-stage customization of your basic attack move, and so you're on the fly switching out your customized move, both for helping you navigate environments, because some of these ways of throwing stuff can clear mid-air obstacles or help you clear gaps, but they also can have different attack patterns and damage patterns that help you against certain bosses. So it fundamentally changes the game compared to the previous game where you were just playing Castlevania, where you had a melee attack and one magic attack that was sort of like a supplementary projectile that always worked the same way. So it was a crazy free update for a game that was actually really interesting, and it also had like a whole love story thing that was weirdly well written and charming and everything. So even the story was surprisingly good. So I'm really hyped about Spectre Knight, but I just wasn't ready for it because I didn't see it coming. But one day. So congrats on 100,000.
We believe in your ability to play video games, Keith.
Yeah.
Someday.
I also get those comments, by the way. Like I had
I have
had someone.
It was just so weird for me to get that on an AMA that I had to bring it up because, like,
it was so funny though.
Yeah. It's one thing when it's happening at random, like I'm on some random video and some random audience member is just arbitrarily saying, you only have this many subscribers and I don't have much perspective for how much subscribers is a lot, so I'm going to tell you that you're doing your channel wrong and you should reduce your video output, or other things that I think would work based on my total lack of exposure to any information, really. But somebody going to your celebratory AMA of like, I just hit 100,000 subscribers, look how amazing my channel's going, and I'll answer whatever questions you want and try to spread knowledge and help you wrong.
Yeah. It'd be like
being that you're doing it wrong is so baffling.
It'd be like if somebody was just like saying like, hey, I just finished my PhD in like this random obscure topic, and then an undergrad from that field was like, oh, you should have written it on this subject instead. Like, what the fuck?
You should have been a lawyer.
Like, no, you shouldn't have written it on computational automatons. You should have written it on, like, manifold string theory, dick.
It'd be like as if I got 100,000 subscribers and somebody's like, where's your geology master's degree? Like, I don't... What? Why are we talking about this? Speaking of which, first question, Keith, you're a geologist. What's Mount Rushmore made of? It's granite. The end. Bye. I think they're trying to make a joke because they were like, because it's really weird. It looks so much like human faces.
Maybe.
I think
what is granite though?
I think they're trying to make a joke that it's like it's face
granite
rock.
Iron?
That's not easy.
Oh. Is it
so granite is one of those rocks that's a series of different minerals in conjunction with each other.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it's muscovite and plagioclase and it's quartz all mixed together.
Like quartz.
And the different combination of them affects the color of the granite, and chemical imperfections can lead to like getting like red granite and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
And mostly it's just super hard because it's made of quartz, and quartz is one of the harder rocks that exist.
Right, quartz is very hard, yeah.
It looks like oatmeal. It just looks like
oatmeal.
It's just shit mashed together and melted.
Wander, I'm going to flip over to your channel because I want to see how scruffy your face is. You were talking about it earlier.
I don't have my face cam.
Oh, come on.
No?
So
you don't have your face cam in this. Oh, right, you never do.
Yeah. Wander just finished up an anime convention as well because we're just going to talk about him all podcast. It's fine.
It was fun.
How do you survive an anime convention?
It's kind of separate. One, I think Chelle's going to want to talk about this next week. But she's constantly just selling stuff, so people will drop by and she'll be like, "Hey, that's this price, that's this price." She takes their money, hands them a print, so on and so forth. She made like
that sounds like capitalism.
$2,000, something like that this weekend. Yeah, very good for her. I, on the other hand, had a camping chair and my phone and a sketchbook and a pen, obviously, and some headphones come the second day, and I sat there wasting as much time as I humanly could manage in every possible way, and then would occasionally get up to go to the bathroom, snack, or stare at people. That's pretty much it. It was it sounds boring, but it's kind of nice just because I spent all my time working, that it's nice to have just a weekend where my goal is to do nothing, and that is what I did. So I actually have I want to say 12 pages of bad caricatures of people as they went by. Anime convention people look weird. I'm gonna be like straight up and honest about it, but like there are some funky people. Like you know how like a lot of people give Egoraptor shit for having like kind of the weird thumb neck? There was one dude who like the curvature and like shape of his head, he didn't have much of a chin or a jawline, it just went straight into his neck. But he also had a really long neck that started thin and got wider as it got up closer to his head. And he had like the tendency to kind of like curve around.
Reached like the no judgment zone, and he's being judged.
I mean, I'm not going out of my way to like
the anime people. I'm safe here, and then I'm like, I'm going to talk about him on my podcast.
Shaming. Yeah, I don't know. I feel a bit guilty for this, but it's also one of those where it's just like he was just such an interesting person and shape that I had to draw him, and he was like the third person that I drew.
So are we gonna see these pictures or?
Yeah, actually, Keith, I can send you pictures of every one of them if you want to flash them on the thing. Otherwise, I'll take those photos and put them on Discord just so people can see them. But I mean, a lot of the people, you know how like Legend of Zelda has like kind of funky looking people. They're real.
Yeah,
they just go to anime conventions.
Real.
They're like, oh, you go up to some dude and you're like, what are you cosplaying as? And they're like, what are you talking about? And then you're like, oh. Like, oh, yeah, that's my favorite character from Zelda.
But,
crushing sadness.
But so, like, there's one dude who had this, like, big bushy beard. Like, it was impressive how, like, long his beard was comparatively. Because it was so thin. But, like, it managed to stay totally, like, I'm gonna say it didn't move or like sway. Like, you know when a person has like really scrubby hair, there's like not much of it left and it's kind of like super wispy? It was like it was the beard version of that, and it was like totally rigid as though there was actually like structural stability to this beard. And it was fascinating. You could see his chin through his beard as though his beard weren't there, but like he's got this ginormous beard over it, and it was weird looking. What was it? There was one girl whose like face was maybe, I want to say, like 4 inches wide, and the rest of it was just like hair framing it. But her face was thin enough that you could fit every facial feature within like 3 or 4 inches between her curtain of hair, and she looked like like
a hair window.
Have you guys seen The Incredibles? You know that like that woman that designed their costumes?
Yeah.
She looked like that.
I haven't seen The Incredibles, actually.
Yeah. Dude, go watch it. You fucking watched Scarface and you haven't seen The Incredibles.
That's the most.
I probably like The Incredibles.
That is the most bizarre
like
point I've ever heard.
Yeah, I don't quite get this comparison.
I'm just shaming
Everyone
him
knows there's a specific order you're supposed to watch movies in, and it's Scarface after The Incredibles. It's the only way it can happen.
I'm sorry for
being
being
I guess
pedantic.
if you watch movies chronologically, then yeah, it makes sense. If you're like, I have to start with 1987. I have to start with 1987. I would like to see somebody get reverse chronological. Good point.
Pedantic about this and be like, no, you have to watch movies in order of release. All of them.
Backwards.
I mean, I haven't really watched Scarface still. I kind of watched it while playing Old Republic, and I was like, that was boring, which means probably I wasn't paying enough attention because I was playing Old Republic, so that was a bad idea. So I counted as not having watched Scarface. Although somebody
there's also this one guy.
That's quite an interesting chain of logic there, I guess.
Yeah, it's just so when you realize you probably haven't actually watched it, even though you sat through it technically.
It's like when you read a book and you read you're like 10 pages in, or like you've read like 10 pages and then you realize you didn't actually read the book.
You just stared at the pages.
And staring at the pages.
Yeah, I looked at the letters in order, but I did not read it.
God, that was the bane. Oh man, high school was horrible for that specific reason. Every book was just like a chore. It took me. I would read every book probably roughly 4 times because I would read it once and then not read it, and then.
For me, that was college. Geology is fun to go on trips on, and it's fun for discussions, and it's fun solving like logic puzzles of how things fit together. But reading a 50-page chapter about chemical compositions is not a good time. Ever. But I'm happy to not be in that phase right now. Now I just play video games all day like I have ADHD.
I don't know what that
as long
has
as you
to
make
do with
your dreams
ADHD,
happen.
but okay.
There's an inherent. I think a lot of people who do Let's Plays tend to have ADHD because
it
of
feels like it.
the bonus. Well, I mean, because like it helps with multitasking because of the attention issues, and like it's just a weird reoccurring thing where people actually have it. I actually question whether or not I may have any sort of undiagnosed anythings because I have 0 diagnoses of any kind.
Yeah.
Basically. Like medical or mental.
Well, I mean, Keith,
that would explain your type 7 diabetes.
I mean, Keith, this is the decade for self-diagnoses, and
no, don't make me sad. Then I'll have depression, but self-diagnosed clinical depression.
I'm sad sometimes, therefore my brain's broken.
I don't want to make fun of people with depression, but that I've actually encountered someone that said that unironically before. That they claimed they had clinical depression, but it was self-diagnosed because they never actually went to a clinic of any kind, which is what I think what the word means.
I know people that did the exact same thing. They're like, I self-medicate, and I'm like, that's fucking stupid. What do you self-medicate with? Advil. No!
Advil? Just jam more of it until it stops fitting.
Like you might as well say Flintstones multivitamins for.
It took me a lot longer to get than I thought it would, Keith.
What?
It was like the Advil thing. It was like, wait, where would you stuff it? Sorry, I was looking over at my chat.
Okay.
Anyway.
What?
I was just saying. I didn't listen to anything you just said.
All right. Well, we're in the middle of this deluge of new releases, and almost in spite of it, I've been spending every day playing like 4 hours straight of Mass Effect 3.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Breath of the Wild, and I was going to be
I've been just barely eking out 1 episode per day of all the new releases while just trying to cram Mass Effect 3 before Andromeda comes out. And man, that is a long game.
It is.
Like, it's not long by RPG standards, but it's super long by Mass Effect standards. Because the first game was like, if you did all the side content in the entire game, you might get 20 hours out of a playthrough of the first Mass Effect. Because it was so short. Like, I did a playthrough of it that was 4 hours long once. That's how short you can get through the first Mass Effect. But this one, man, for some reason, they're like, at the end of the trilogy means we have to solve every problem in the universe. So every outstanding issue that has been a background conflict in the Mass Effect universe is suddenly something that has to be resolved right now in this game. So it's just so long. And you have this like checklist of like every surviving crew member, both party members that were playable and every random character that was just on your ship at one point. At some point, they have to show up in this game again, just for the game to reassure you that they didn't forget about them because of the whole save import thing. And you start realizing how much baggage the last 2 games had, and like you could just spend 3 hours straight walking around the Citadel, revisiting with old companions and stuff like that, without even going on a mission to shoot people, which is both super cool that they went through the trouble and super weird for game pacing.
Keith, you had a massive spike of Robo voice there for a little while. And it tuned out at the very end, and I was like, I was going to call it out, but I guess I don't have to now.
That must have been on your end, Bird, because I didn't get it.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So,
I just wanted to check here.
Do you guys know much about the Mass Effect 3 import system? Or specifically, like, what happens if you don't use it?
Yeah, I went through that, sort of, or I tried. I tried that first, and then I went back and downloaded somebody else's save file.
Yeah. Yeah, you've, it's interesting because so many people, in ways that frustrate me, recommend to start with Mass Effect 2, because a lot of people say that the first one's the crap one, which is frustrating for me because it has a lot of issues, but it's my favorite story in the entire trilogy.
That's exactly what I feel. Like, it's probably one of the worst. It's the worst game, probably. But the story is the freshest. Yeah.
That inventory was a nightmare. But it's such a tightly woven story. It's so focused on the concepts of indoctrination and mind control, because every planet's using like a different mix of that.
We're talking about Mass Effect 1 here, right?
Yeah. And you go into all these little like locations that all feel like these like mini Star Trek episodes, and like Noveria is this place you can walk around non-linearly and explore even after you finish the missions there and stuff like that. And, like, there's so much cool stuff going on in that game. And people recommend skipping it, which is super rough. Not only because it's
that
my favorite
bothers
story, but it hurts your future playthroughs. Because if you play Mass Effect 3, for example, without playing Mass Effect 1, characters like Rex don't exist.
Yeah, you can accidentally, I didn't know this until Chelle told me a couple hours ago, but apparently if you do it wrong, you can actually kill Rex, like, somewhere along the way, and then, in fact, that's the default bad option.
Yeah,
if you just import saves over.
It's, in Mass Effect 2, you can kill him during one of the,
No, Mass
quests,
Effect
if
1,
I remember right.
in Mass Effect 1 on Vermeer, multiple party members can die over the course of the mission. There's a decision between multiple characters to live or die, and then for Rex, there's like conditions to meet earlier in the game, and or you need like certain levels of charm and intimidate to be able to get past him dying in a scene. And yeah, not only is it possible, a huge percentage of players actually experience that rather than saving him, and as a result, the way they handled future Mass Effect games to make them easier to understand for people that are coming in with just that game is that multiple characters could die in the first game. The second game literally ends with a suicide mission where every single companion in your entire party has a chance of potentially dying. So their way of handling that is to basically kill like 90% of characters if you just play Mass Effect 3 and start there. It's just assumed that basically everyone except for like 1 or 2 characters is dead, and those 2 are just really integral for the story. So then like when you get to moments where it's like I'm on Tuchanka and I'm dealing with like Morden and Rex, and a different player would not have Morden or Rex, and they would have a completely different Solarian Doctor and a completely different Krogan leader, and the scenario is playing out completely differently and stuff. It's crazy.
If I remember right, though, if you have generic Solarian, generic Krogan, like you pretty much can't get the good alternative, or it's like much harder, or just less satisfying.
There is a lot of variables. The interesting thing about Mass Effect 3 is it's famous for being the game where your decisions didn't matter because its ending is a game. It has a terrible ending that kind of invalidates a lot of stuff that's going on. But in the actual game itself, from mission to mission, like there are spreadsheets you can look up of the logic going on behind the scenes of what allows certain things to happen, to the point where like I don't know about necessarily the Tuchanka scenario, but like for the Quarian scenario, for example, there is like this big list of different conditions that you have to do over the course of the first and second and third game, basically. And if you've done a certain number of them, then you could get a potentially special good ending, but only if you also did certain other missions that enable those steps to happen. Otherwise, it's just impossible, and you get to that moment, there's no decision available to you, and you just can't do anything about it.
You know what's really kind of funny about all this, though, is that, like, this was one of the main selling points of Mass Effect 2, was, like, you can carry your save over and, like, do really, really cool stuff, and, like, there's, like, special stuff if you do that. It seems like it didn't transfer well at all when they did it a second time with Mass Effect 3, where, like, there's just too much branching that can happen.
There's
they have
so
to
much
make huge cuts.
I think part of it is also, like, Mass Effect 1 was a huge success, and they were, like, you know, they did absolutely great with it. I can't say the same with, like, kind of 2 to 3 though, because like 2 is they're like, yeah, we gotta match it. Yeah. You know, we can't just have this be another Mass Effect game. It has to be good. And then 3, they're like, shit, we've got to wrap this up. We're not doing a 4th game, so I guess let's like tie it all together. And they went through some major leadership changes and staff changes, if I remember right, between each. So, like, kind of go figure that they ran into issues like this.
3 just blows my mind with how much work goes into it. Like, it is not only the longest one, but it just has the most... It probably has the most variables of any of the games in the series. Because, like, there's random side quests where you will encounter characters that are not crew members in this game, but they were crew members in the second game, and they're not tied to the main story. But you'll do this mission with this character, like somebody like Kasumi or Zaid or something like that. Which, by the way, those were DLC characters for the second game. So that means that the DLC for the second game is technically also DLC for the third game, which is even weirder. But that kind of adds value to them retroactively in a way. But you'll do those missions, and it's a variable because the mission can still show up, I think, even if they're dead, which means that the mission carries on without their help at all. But also, whether or not they're loyal in the second game can affect whether or not they survive the mission in the third game. Like, even if their loyalty rating was down, but they still miraculously survived the suicide mission, that lack of loyalty mission being done in the second game can still lead to them dying in the third game. It checks that many goddamn variables. Like, you walk around the ship, and, like, you'll have this, like, moment of, like, Liara and Garrus, like, shooting the shit on a random sofa as you're walking by and having a relatively extended conversation, but Garrus could be dead. Because Garrus is a Mass Effect 2 character, and literally every crew member can die in that game. So, like, there's conversations between Garrus and Tali, like, several conversations between Garrus and Tali, but either of them could die in the second game, invalidating all of that work. So, like, it
would be great
so
if
ambitious.
They fucked up the programming, and it was just these characters just talking to themselves. And
or
just pausing and waiting for a response, and then...
Have you...
Oh, yeah.
Have you had that, Keith, with Horizon Zero Dawn at all? Where you will kill a character and they'll still talk?
No, but I haven't played very much of Horizon. I'm not even out of like the beginning of the story yet.
I mean, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
So I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and me being the bush murderer that I am, I would kill everybody before I even really entered the zone.
You murdered everybody in another game? Jesus.
So everything that I learned from Fallout playthroughs pretty much transferred directly over to Horizon Zero Dawn, except for there was no challenge because all I had to do was whistle from a bush and then everyone would die. It was amazing. But so I would just barely enter into a quest mission zone, and there'd be a bush right there. And the whistle is line of sight. It doesn't matter how far an enemy is away from you. As long as you can see them, they will hear your whistle, and only that one guy. So, so what ends up happening is, I would summon literally every enemy to my murder bush. There'd be a pile of corpses around me, and they'd be like, "What's in this bush?" And then I'd kill them too. And then, rinse, repeat forever. And usually I would get caught. Sometimes I would. But then I'd walk into the area, and ghosts would be talking.
Oh, wow.
Because there's, kind of triggered context dialogue between the goons. And admittedly, a lot of my playthrough was in the first couple of days, so I wouldn't be surprised if they haven't already patched this out. But there was definitely a moment where I just, heard two guys having a conversation. I freaked out because I knew for a fact I'd kill everybody. I killed everybody because you actually get, X-ray vision as a child pretty much in the game. So it's just oh yeah, this is I can see where everybody is. I can mark them. I can murder them all. And why are there people talking around me? And this is a high stakes mission where you can't get caught. And I'm like, and then no, it was ghosts.
The game does seem to have a thing where it literally triggers dialogue by you stepping on pieces of the road, basically. Because when I was doing the first mission where you go outside the home area and you're like, we're going to teach you how to hunt by teaching you to fight this thing you've never fought before, I wandered off the road slightly and meandered a bit and was basically just bypassing all the dialogue that you're supposed to be having with your father figure by not stepping on the triggers.
So the triggers aren't associated with the character position, they're associated with the world?
They're associated with your character stepping on parts of the road, but if you wander off the road, then you kind of can just skip pieces of the dialogue. So I was really weirded out because I was surrounded by corpses everywhere, and I'm like, aren't you acknowledge all the dead hunters everywhere? That seems like something to talk about, and nobody was talking about it. But apparently, according to comments, that he's supposed to have dialogue about that. But I was wandering off the road, so I skipped it. Those are kind of weird moments. They're not they're not solid gates that cover the whole open world.
We're going to wander through the dead people grove.
Yeah,
and,
you think that'd be a
total silence.
It's weird. But
so how is the weather? We're not talking right now.
It's over forever now. I did find it really weird, without giving much spoilers or anything, the game contextualizes some grand challenge that you're going to train all your life for, to be prepared for, so that you can try to become a proper clansman, and all the other people are all training their whole lives, and you can't handle this, I trained my whole life for this, you're not worthy, and stuff like that. But it amounts to just being you hunt one barely hostile creature, and then you do a foot race, and then you're done, and you're like, you won the proving, and I'm like, you trained your life for that? You ran for a while. I know you have to be in good shape, but that's not what I was. The thing the thing you do right before the proving to train for the proving is way more dangerous than anything that happens in the proving.
I actually had about the same problem. Though it bugged me more because with the dialogue, have you ever had it where the dialogue like overlaps on itself a bunch? Or no?
Nope, but it's definitely happening in Mass Effect.
Okay, so it happens to me nigh constantly where, like, I'll walk into an area and somebody will start talking, and then somebody else will start talking over them. And so I've actually had Aloy talking to herself twice at the same time. Like, it's magic. And it's really annoying because, like, what happened that reminds me of this is, I was listening to a log and I'm wandering around looking for the next log because, like, you don't want to just stand there while listening to an audio log that's boring as shit. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to wander around and find the next log and stand next to it. Except for then Aloy starts talking to herself. And then this other character that's effectively Cortana later starts talking as well. And then Aloy starts responding to him as well as her listening to a log and talking to herself about the environment that she's currently in. And I'm sitting there being like, I can't hear anything. And then some dudes popped up, like some enemy dudes. And they're talking now, and it's like, the log finishes up, but I've got like 3 dialogue plus combat noises, and I'm just like, no! Shut up and let me, like, do a thing, maybe.
I've had slightly similar annoyances with Mass Effect, where you come out of a cutscene and your 2 companions will start talking to each other because you happen to have 2 characters that have a conversation for that scene, and then it's like, oh, cool, they're talking to each other. This is like what I live for playing this game. Then you take 5 steps, and then mission dialogue cuts them off, and that's what you're listening to now.
I hated that. I ran into that constantly.
Yeah, it's like the game
Mass
expects
Effect.
you to literally stop moving anytime anyone ever speaks, or it'll be overridden by other dialogue because the game's so overflowing with dialogue. And I'm like, all you have to do is make the dialogue come after the other dialogue. Like, just queue it up, like some games do. It's so disappointing when it happens because you're like, well, no, that's why we're playing this. Stop it. But for Horizon Zero Dawn, did you recognize the voice actor for the protagonist?
Yeah, it's Ashley Birch.
Yeah, going up in the world, huh?
Good for her, I guess.
From a YouTube internet series to Borderlands, Life is Strange is now this. Although she's also like an anime voice actor, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta give it. I gotta give her credit. She found her way into the industry and has.
Isn't she a writer,
she's not bad at it.
Yeah.
If she's worse, I think
she's
I
super
care
recognizable
more,
though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think she had to work herself up in the industry. I think she pretty much. She wrote for Adventure Time, right?
I mean, her voice is recognizable. Like Horizon Zero Dawn sounds like Aloy sounds exactly like Chloe from Life is Strange.
But Nolan North sounds like Nolan North with mild variations.
Yeah.
So.
Well, except for when he doesn't. It's that thing where like every now and then Nolan North.
Tautology.
Well, it's like when Nolan North and Jennifer Hale can both just do the Jennifer Hale and Nolan North thing. Like, like Commander Shepard sounds exactly like Green Lantern's girlfriend from the Green Lantern 3D cartoon series because it's just the Jennifer Hale voice. But like, I didn't recognize Jennifer Hale outright when I played BioShock Infinite, for example, and Nolan North I didn't recognize when he was playing one of the main villains that show up over the course of Last of Us. Like that's the thing is like in The Last of Us, they weirdly Naughty Dog has been trading off like who plays the protagonist and who plays the antagonist between Nolan North and Troy Baker for a bit. And since Troy Baker's Last of Us protagonist, then like the villain turns out to be Nolan North. But I found that out afterwards. But every now and then they just use the same voice, and it's weird to have it back to back like that. Like it's just it's just Ashley Birch talking basically.
I guess I don't know. I still respect it because it's cool.
Yeah.
And also, I'd like to do the same thing maybe as a retirement plan.
I'm going to retire to become a voice actor.
Yeah, why not? I mean, look, I can only play video games for the internet for so long. Probably.
Sure, let's hear some of your voices. Can you do a mob boss?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to be totally honest, though.
Can you do the Arena Lord from Oblivion?
I have actually been doing like a lot of voice acting, amateur absolutely, but like still voice acting for Night in the Woods and like a couple other series, and that's actually been really fun. The problem is specifically for Night in the Woods, male characters are actually fairly rare, so like I can go episodes without voicing X person, and then they'll show up and have some dialogue, and I'll be like, shit.
You have to remember what the hell they sounded like.
Yeah, because like,
or you can just say screw it and give them a new voice.
Yeah, that's often what I do, but like,
really,
it's still a mild problem. But I'm definitely getting there on the like kind of old man voice, which is worrying. But I mean, back to the retirement plan.
Let's hear an old man voice.
Listen, Greg rules, okay?
Talk about potatoes and how you used to grow them, but you don't anymore.
What?
Used to grow potatoes once upon a time, but then I don't know. I don't have any lines. Dude, I do the voice acting. I'm not ad-libbing lines here.
Oh, okay. Can't be both. That's fine.
So is Night in the Woods going to be the new Undertale, where it's just what everyone's going to talk about?
No,
the
because
year?
no one's heard of it until this podcast.
Well, I mean, actually, it's fairly popular. It definitely appealed to the... Honestly, I'd say it's closer to Life is Strange in terms of like content over Undertale. Just because Life is Strange, Oxenfree, and Night in the Woods all kind of appeal to the same demographic and mentality.
Yeah, that's pretty comparable.
Yeah.
I kind of just mean like in terms of like it taking off and everyone talking about it for a while, as more so than actual content necessarily.
I think it's going to be kind of a popular little blip. A lot of people are going to cover it. I'm doing really well with it lately just because Chelle and I are voice acting it, and we're pretty much the only people that are even bothering to do that, which is super helpful. But like...
Yeah, I started encountering not voice acting, sorry, like fan art and stuff, like way before it even I even started playing it.
Well... The thing is, they've been, they had a pretty successful Kickstarter, but they've been, trickling out a lot of stuff for a while. So they've been trickling demos and, like, playtests and, like, GIFs and stuff. And they knew how to PR pretty well, comparatively. Because a lot of people kind of ate that shit up really, really hard. And it appeals to the kind of fan-arty people that also happen to be the angsty... mid-20s artsy people that do the fan art, so
right,
hit them where it's easy. I don't know.
Do you ever have audience members that try to treat you like you're supposed to be the PR arm of a company and like you're hurting games by not covering them and stuff?
Not overwhelmingly. Most people just kind of leave me alone. I mean, not entirely true. But, oh shoot, what was it? People get really mad at me when I don't cover stuff that makes no sense. You'd mentioned this with Overwatch, people wanting to play Overwatch with you.
Yeah.
I have similar problems where people are like, you absolutely need to be playing X, and I'm just like, no, I don't. I'm pretty good, honestly, as far as things are concerned, and they're like actually offended that I'm not acquiescing, I guess.
Yeah, but I've just been getting reoccurring things where people are like Torment Tides of Numenera needs all the coverage it can get, and like I'm so disappointed that you're not playing it and stuff like that. Like as if I'm like,
oh, so you, like as if you I'm decided not to play it after all.
Yeah, it's like I'm responsible for their success, and I'm like, I'm not their PR company.
What if you indulged one of those people and then just like shat on the game the whole time?
Oh God!
Then they just shit all over you. Actually,
really.
I forgot. This is one other complaint that I had to bring up.
Oh, good. More.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
So people telling me things like telling me how to run my life and stuff like that. I've been playing this game Pamela, which is a almost okay survival horror like sandbox game, except for the fact that it runs so badly that it's almost completely unplayable. But like it's very pretty and the ambiance is good, and the setting and lore ain't bad. It's just you have to get past the fact that the game's busted and bad. At least initial impressions and such. But it's a horror game, so you can kind of hear the enemies coming. but they're kind of few and far between. You're spending most of your time just wandering around dark places trying to figure out like how to get from place to place. And this one guy's like actively been trying to convince me over 3 episodes to not say anything for this playthrough. And like multiple comments with each video arguing with me. It's like, no, you really need to stop talking because like you're actively ruining my experience here. And I'm like, what?
Fucking buy the game.
I know. Really. I said that on the first one.
Yourself.
It's like, if you want that experience, you should really play the game yourself. And he just totally ignored it. And I was just like, all right, I'll just, yep. That was, I don't know.
See, when you said you wanted to complain about people telling you how to run your life, I thought it'd be like people leaving comments like, do your dishes more.
No.
You left your laundry for Chelle to do.
These are people that don't quite realize that I am not their monkey.
Yeah.
And they consistently don't realize this fact.
It's really interesting how like people will view complete strangers on the internet that make content for them, and like they either think that they're their bitch, or they think they're their best friend, or they have a mature understanding of it. It's like those are the 3 categories. They're either like, you need to do everything the way I envision you should be doing it, or hey, yeah, I'm gonna act like we've known each other for years, person that I've talked to for a week, and then I'm gonna leave this channel and never talk to you again in like 4 days. Or they're like a normal person.
Yeah, and what the issue that happens there is that the normal state of being on YouTube is also to not comment. So the normal people are silent, and so you don't know so you get a disproportionate exposure to the crazies on both sides, which is like people being really abrasively demanding or rude for no real reason and for unreasonable reasons, and then people like who are way too into you sometimes. Like, every now and then someone gets very emotionally attached to you and you've never met them before, and it's very hard to bring that back down before it becomes an issue. And that's happened before. Whew.
Yes, it has. That was an interesting time for all of us.
We'll never talk specifics, but there's definitely been actually multiple incarnations of people that get very emotionally attached to one or more of us, and we don't know them. Like, it's so hard to explain that, but like it's what do you do about that?
You ban them?
I don't usually do that. Oh, wow. By the way, Torment's Tides of Numenera Steam page has mixed reviews, and it's full of negative reviews saying that's just not fun, and it's a disappointment to the franchise and all this other stuff. So that I may have dodged a bullet there,
boyo.
Yeah. The PC Metacritic's in the low 80s, and the console Metacritic's in the 70s. But who knows what that is? Because, freaking according to Metacritic, fucking Zelda's the 4th best game of all time or something. So we'll see. I am enjoying it.
How far have you gotten in it, out of curiosity?
I did the plateau, then dove directly into Gerudo Desert.
Okay, so you're actually going in the right direction.
So I've done a tower and 2 shrines outside of the.
He still hasn't reached what you were going to talk about, though.
Wander. Yeah, I'm glad you're going in the in my general direction, so we can talk about things, because by sheer happenstance we ended up going to Gerudo Desert first, just because we were on a tower nearby, and I chose that direction to fly. The fact that I can float, like I can jump off things and float down, hang glide effectively, is so nice. I wish more games had that. Honestly,
it's highlighting how. I spent my first upgrade on my health because I was taken aback by how quickly I could die, but for now, I think I want to spend my next several upgrades on stamina, just so I can do the opposite. Because
nice thing is you can actually switch them around freely. Once you get to a certain town later on in the game, I haven't even found it yet. It's just people won't stop telling me where to go. That's actually the last thing. Have you had comments telling you where to get to the Master Sword, or like kind of this like coy like, you want to go in this general direction? You'll find something amazing.
No one's tried to point me anywhere so far, really.
There's something really cool over here.
Whenever I read a comment that sounds like it's starting along the path for like any game, I just stop reading the comment mid-sentence and just move on.
We run into it a lot more often. I want to say like backseat gaming is more common maybe with streams, because it's a little bit more direct and
that's why I stopped streaming. Yeah.
We were standing in front of the Master Sword, and somebody's like, "You should go to X place so you can get the Master Sword." And I'm like, "I'm right here. Like, I'm looking at it. We just tried to pull it out of the stone. Are you even watching this?"
It could be worse. Imagine if somebody like 4 episodes after you got the Master Sword dropped a comment like,
"But
hey,
they do that.
I'm sure they do.
They do that.
Like, the other thing is,
you can be on episode 30 of a series and spend 28 of those episodes doing one action over and over again. But in the one episode where you don't quite ever do that action, they teach you how to do that action in the comments. And I'm like, what are you doing? I don't understand.
The thing that makes me feel like a weird, crazy person, though, is like a lot of these people like know more details about it. Like, you have to have a certain amount of health to even pull out the Master Sword. And so they're like, you should go get 13 hearts so you could get something special. And I'm like, what do you think I'm doing? I'm doing a shrine right now.
Yeah, go get 13 hearts. I don't know how it scales, but I know that you needed 4 shrines just to get 1 heart at the beginning, not counting how much you might spend on stamina. So, like, who knows if it even goes up in price each time. So, like, how many hours of time do you need to get through to do that? It's like when people talk to you about the end game of a game when you're in like level 2, and it's like, shut up, stop. It's not relevant information. And it's like, it's the type of thing where like when you learn math and stuff like that and science classes, like they intentionally mislead you by oversimplifying things and kind of lie to you early on, because telling you even a part of the actual truth is way more confusing. So they give you sort of like stopgap semi-lies to help you along towards what they'll eventually teach you later. And that similar thing goes with video games. Like, giving somebody the absolute truth of what needs to happen 24 hours from now can be so confusing without context that can actually be harmful, misleading information that makes them make worse decisions.
Yep.
I've had that problem before where somebody will just give me like information that's not relevant for hours. And I'll try to apply it in the immediate moment. And it'll be like, oh yeah, you don't get the key to unlock this door for another like 7 hours. And stuff like that. As an abstract example, but, you know, basic principle.
But makes me feel like a crazy person. Anyway, so we'll talk more about Breath of the Wild probably next week once Kate's had some more time.
Yeah. It's one of those things where we'll almost never be able to talk about anything specific because we will always be playing different minor pieces of content constantly.
Right.
Yeah. Because it's just open. Like, you can just do whatever.
I will say, you probably haven't had time for this, but because I stream these, I was actively trying to avoid plot stuff for as much as possible for the first week. So anybody that wants to watch my series can watch it freely without having to, like, you know, wait.
Right.
If that makes sense.
But arguably the plot stuff matters less, and the potential thing to be spoiled is puzzle solutions. And so, like, it's constantly a headache. Like, I can't watch anybody else's playthrough of this game right now because they immediately went off in different directions.
Solutions. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like I was watching some Game Grumps, and then they walked into a shrine. I'm like, oh, I haven't been there yet. I guess I'm done with this series.
No, that's totally true. Some of the shrines are super clever. Like, there's one where it's just a stranded situation. They take away all your shit, and they're like, good luck. And I want to say that shrine took me like an hour and a half to do, and it was amazing, and I loved every minute of it. And Chelle's sitting next to me being like, can we go yet?
Considering how pointless and minor the first 4 were, it's been a surprise how immediately more complicated the ones are outside of there.
Oh, yeah. Some of them use the motion controls really well, actually. Like, I didn't even realize it at first. There's a freaking golf one later on. Like, you have to play golf. And I didn't realize it, and it was awesome.
It didn't work on the Wii, but damn it, they're going to make golf work on the Switch.
I mean, honestly, it didn't work great. It was kind of just, like, passable. But it just... I was sitting there trying to figure out, like, what am I supposed to do? And then... Oh. It was just kind of the, like, sudden, like...
Is there a fishing minigame?
Interesting point about this. There's no fishing. Sort of.
What the hell?
You fish by chucking bombs into the water.
Game. That's not fishing. That's fish terrorism.
You can also just jump in a pond full of fish and just literally hit the interact button to pick them up out of the water while you're swimming through the water.
I actually get most of my fish from Octoroks that I just, clip every once in a while as I go by because they die in one shot. Octoroks are bastards, though. Like, if one of them's in the water and I can't reach it, like for the island one specifically, there's one Octorok on one section of the beach that would just pelt me with rocks no matter where I was on said beach. And I couldn't reach it because I didn't have any arrows. And it's just like
I'm going to walk over here, and you're going to get hit by a goddamn arrow or a firebomb. Yeah. I've been playing a lot of Dark Souls lately.
You just blazed through most of 3 again.
Yeah, I'm at the last boss of 3. It took 28 hours. Jesus Christ, that's so much time. But it's done. It's done.
And you did it alone.
I did do it alone. I did it with the most novelty build I could think of at the time, which was completely unarmored, and I'm using the Mailbreaker, which is a pretty shitty weapon, but it's got 140% critical hit damage.
Yeah, crit's great.
Yeah, so I put a raw gem on it, and it's like, if I can backstab somebody, they die instantly. If I can't, I think the
screwed. I think the Mailbreaker also has good counterattack damage, doesn't it?
It has great counterattack damage,
so it's good for bosses. So I do both. Bosses have large, exaggerated attack animations, which means that like half the boss fight is technically counterattacks. So,
right.
So like rapiers and Mailbreakers destroy them.
Yeah, so I do both. I've used the Cestus, or whatever it is, the Cadius, I don't remember.
The punchy weapons.
Like yeah, the punchies for parrying, and then I stab somebody with a Mailbreaker, and it's pretty great. It's like, there goes 1/3 of Pontiff Sullivan's life bar.
Oh, yeah.
Too bad I'd lose, because the second half of him was pretty much impossible to do solo, but...
Then you give yourself that Leo ring so that you get bonus counterattack damage, and you just ruin people.
I got the Leo ring. Interestingly enough, though, like, even with all those bonuses, trying to, like, kill Havel with that build is impossible. Like, it's a fun build, but there are just some things that are just, like, not doable with it. One is killing Havel, because it's going to take you, like, 30 minutes, even with backstabs. And then, there was another thing that was, like, almost impossible to do.
Man, you're going to be so much better at this game now.
Oh, shit, man. I'm parrying and riposting and...
Yeah, you did a whole
rolling everywhere.
With parries and solo for all of Dark Souls 3.
I still used help on the bosses. It's too hard otherwise. But, oh my god. You guys spoiled me for the multiplayer, let me tell you. Multiplayer with randos is like, I'm gonna summon, like Ladius Dude Lad, and then, like, he runs into the boss, gets stabbed instantly, and dies.
Oh, yeah.
And then I repeat that, like, 3 or 4 times, and then finally get somebody who's, like, all they do is they just cast Great Soul Arrow from the corner of the room, and they're just like, if they hit them 4 times, the boss fight is over. Those are literally the 2 people that play Dark Souls 3 right now. Useless fucks and glass cannons.
So lazy spell spammers and people that just think that it's Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hit peak frustration at one point where I was doing my Dark Souls 2 playthrough originally, and I was doing a no summons playthrough of, like, the game generally, but I was so frustrated against the ancient dragon that I just couldn't take it, and I tried summoning people, but I would summon people and they would just get killed by the initial fire blast when you walk in. They wouldn't dodge that. I'm like, what? And that happened, like, multiple times in a row. I'm like, this is literally
it's like you're
worse.
Summoning people that it seems like they're on their first playthrough.
Yeah,
right?
And, like, so they all get one shot by the fire, which means they don't help or even participate in the fight, but they instantly
burn
get
one
killed.
Of your embers. Yeah.
Not only that, but they also buff the enemy's health, because all the bosses get more health when you summon. Like, he's significantly harder, and I get no benefits. It's real awful.
Yeah, and then you can't communicate with them either, right? So if I see somebody stabbing, like, the old Demon King, and I can't be like, he's about to launch an AoE. He's about to launch an AoE. What are you doing? Go!
Nope.
Go! Stop standing next to him! And then he just gets hit by it and dies. It's so frustrating. It's fun though. It's nice to play that game in a different way than I have, because I played Dark Souls 2, right? And that I played was a heavy armored dude with a big shield and a great sword. I played Dark Souls 3, heavy armored dude, big shield, great sword. Perfectly fun way to play the game. But then I decided to go for, like, a fancy build and play through on like a hard, as somebody in my chat has pointed out, a cancer PvP setup, which that's fairly true. I tried to play through on that, and
parry spam.
Oh god, I don't do that at least. But there are people that
Yes.
like I've seen PvP that just like L2, 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 L2. And it's fun though. It's fun.
Definitely one of the strengths of the Dark Souls franchise is just how replayable they are. Like, because you can change your experience. Like, you go sword and board when you're starting off, but then you go the Bloodborne route of having like a fast weapon or maybe a super heavy weapon, but just dodging your way around all the actual hazards. But then you can go spellcaster route, and there's multiple variations of that.
I think next
feel pretty
time,
different.
if maybe for the DLC, I'll respec my character again. I don't know, and go for like some like Great Solero.
And the spellcasting stuff feels so much like Mega Man, where like in Mega Man, if you use the right power, you just stomp every boss like instantly. Like spellcasting is something that's like you can't just walk in and be like, I'm gonna play easy mode and be a spellcaster, because being a spellcaster blind is like impossible. But knowing about all the spell locations and how to specialize everything and stuff, like you can just break the game with your knowledge, basically.
It was really fun fighting Udix Gundyr, and a champion Gundyr, and I summoned somebody who just like is a pyromancer, and I'm like, this is gonna go well. And they just lobbed like one fireball at him, and it was like there went a third of his health bar.
Yep.
Wow. That was not the experience I had when I was trying spellcasting.
Glass cannons, man. They're all over this game. They have no health. They don't have any Estus flasks for health either. They just have it for recovering their spell points. And then it just is like, I assume they run past every enemy and just put their summon sign in front of the door and just grind up souls and help people all day.
We had an experience where like you just had to hold on with your spellcasting a little longer, because right around the time you more or less gave up on your spellcasting was right when I became absurdly powerful and started one-shotting people with super lava bombs.
That was really amazing to watch. But
because what you do is you stack multiple trinkets or rings or whatever that are like your like boost pyromancies and greatly boost pyromancies and stuff like that. Like those exist for each type of spell casting, and you get your most powerful spells, and you break past the soft caps for your damage scaling, and suddenly your character's ridiculous.
Part of it was I was trying to use like magic weapon on like weapons to get like the boosted. It really just did not.
Yeah, you didn't use like the right spells to be a spellcaster main.
You really need those rings too.
Yeah,
like you need to have your 2 rings that are based on whatever school you're casting in, and then suddenly, like my spellcasting playthrough, I just destroyed things. Like I was using the Farron Flash sword for a lot of the playthrough, and just like chopping through like as if I was a melee character, and it was actually more effective than any melee weapon I'd used before. But it's just everything has to be in place or it falls apart. Which works for co-op, because I could play stupid gimmick builds that don't always work because other people could hit things for me when things weren't working out. But solo is so much harder.
Doing what I'm doing, which is running around with a glorified letter opener and a pair of pants. And it's like my character has died so many times, and he's so hollow that I assume at this point he's just running around purely on autopilot. Like people are like, "Welcome home, Ashen-One," and he's like, he must, he basically must have like 2 neurons that fire like once every 3 minutes at each other.
They alternate.
Book. Book. And that's the entirety of his brain power.
Lit. Gondor calls for aid.
Bacons! Stab, stab, stab. But yeah, I also got the marriage quest line. I did that whole thing. That was cool, but also dumb and like not really that interesting.
It's real weird.
Yeah,
it does give you a different ending though.
The ending is cool. I read a little bit about what the ending is going to be like, and I think the ending is cool. But the actual quest line is like no different from. It's like all you have to do is like walk to this area first, and then walk to another area first.
It's a few hidden locations and interactions you have to do, which is basically every quest line in every Souls game. Is noticing to talk to certain characters at specific moments that might be hidden in weird spots. Like at one point, Siegmeyer arbitrarily goes into like Blighttown well after you have any reason to go to Blighttown. He's suddenly in Blighttown again, and you have to talk to him there to continue with his quest in Dark Souls 1, for example. But like, as long as you can track them down, it's fine. I'm just happy they leaned away from what they did the last game, because Dark Souls 2, if you wanted to finish this quest lines of like 3 different characters, you had to summon them for like at least 3 of the boss fights that they were available to be summoned for, otherwise they would disappear, and just then they would go hollow and die, and I'm like, no, don't make me do summons to do the story. But there's some cool stuff there, and or in this case, actually, a weird mandatory summon in a way, because if you finish Siegward's quest, he just joins you in a fight. Which is a surprise. We have some questions. You want to go through those?
Yeah, let's do questions.
Yeah, sure, let's do that. I have a question for my chat, which is, what's in your closet? So here's my keytar. You can see that. I need to plug that into my computer again. You can also see my...
Doesn't sound like you have enough keytars in that closet of yours.
The other thing that I have in my closet that's kind of cool is the saxophone. I haven't played this in like 6 years, but I do have and own a little student model saxophone. I think Ladybird has actually never seen this, have you?
I have not. I had no idea there was a saxophone.
Yeah, so I have a saxophone in my closet.
What the hell?
All right, so there you go. So that's what's in my closet. All right, I'm going to put this stuff away now.
He's like, I want a divorce.
Read out a question there, Keith.
First off, we have somebody of epicness asking, what kind of questions do you look for when podcasting? Are there certain kinds you prefer over others, and how many questions do you get?
I like meta questions.
It varies a lot, where we get like 3 to 8 per podcast oftentimes. As far as questions go, just like topics to discuss, really.
Yeah.
A lot of people ask us yes or no questions, like, are you going to play For Honor? Which is not interesting. Or they'll ask specific questions, like, I'm going to ask only Wander this question that's specific to how his channel's running right now, and nobody can contribute to, and nobody else really even cares about, or vice versa. And like,
so
that's
the questions we don't like.
Yeah, that's
basically if you ask not those, well, it's probably good enough.
If it's the type of question you would only ask normally by commenting on a video on that individual person's channel, then maybe just do that, as opposed to submitting it to a podcast question for 3 to 4 people. But yeah, like topics about just anything really. Like, if I knew what type of questions I'd want to answer, then we'd already have talked about it properly. A lot of them often are like, what's your favorite of this thing, which you don't really do like once, and then you're done with that. But broader things can come up, and sometimes it's just individual topics, like somebody was asking us about Suicide Squad and things like that, and stuff like that happens. Like anything that you'd want to hear us talk about for a while. And we'll bring it up if we think we can. Or otherwise we'll skip it, probably, if we don't have any idea what you're talking about. Or none of us touch the thing or know about the thing and stuff. But more questions that are bad is better than no questions. In that, like, we could just ignore the question if it doesn't work out.
That's true, yeah.
And for those listening to the audio version,
bad questions are also ones that are like, what if you were on a desert island and you had like 9 bullets, but you didn't have a gun for it, but you had a flare gun and like some rope or whatever? Oh, god damn it, every time.
I have one of those. So for those listening to the audio podcast, for reference, the podcast email is FourNerdsQuestions@gmail.com. No numbers. It's all spelled out. And that's where we get these messages, and then I filter through them. So if we don't read it, it's my fault. Maybe resubmit it, or if you resubmit it multiple times and we don't read it, then maybe we don't want to read it.
Yeah.
And then the same person then followed up by asking why the chicken crossed the road.
So I've got a question from my chat, actually. Keith, this is probably more you and me, but Destiny 2. Have you been like following any of that, or no, not really? I think I mentioned
you said Destiny 2?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it.
It's supposedly coming out this fall, mainly because contractually, if they don't release it, they Activision. I think it's controlling
or
a much larger share of Bungie.
We talked about that either in a previous podcast or during Grim Dawn or something, where I said that
something like that.
That sure is inspirational for making a good product.
Yeah,
that's the exact conditions under which shitty Spider-Man movies get made and shitty Fantastic Four movies get made. He's like, we got to make another one under a time limit, or we lose it. So just crank it out. Who needs inspiration? So that makes me worry a little bit. But they're probably already working on it anyway, and it's probably just a deadline. Yeah. So I don't know. I like Destiny. It's really fun. I don't care about its MMORPG progression stuff. I just want to play through its linear campaign and then stop playing forever, probably. Because as a series of Halo levels, it's fun, and I like Halo, and Destiny plays exactly like Halo. So for that part, I'm up for it.
I wish they had like a dumb mode of the raids that you could play with still the same people or solo, just so I could experience them without all of that rigmarole.
Yeah.
Because like they sound fun and or interesting, and unless I can find, I mean, at this point, 4 more people to play with that are YouTubers, there's no way I'm going to experience them in any meaningful way.
Yeah. And yeah, it was I'm happy I did it once, but it's so hard to organize, especially now that I'm doing videos. Like I did the first Destiny raid, and I did it at launch when the raid first came out, like a month after the game came out. And I did it without any of the new progression systems. I did it before any of the patches and any of the nerfs, and I did it before the next expansion came out, which raised the level cap and totally invalidated the difficulty of the first raid because you could just out-level it now. Like, I did it the real way with progression and careful, like, team management with a bunch of strangers. We're all shouting at each other and figuring out what to do and stuff like that, and having that World of Warcraft experience of, there's an encounter where there, there's 8 spawn points for a thing you have to shoot, and you have to manage to shoot them all before it triggers something, and they keep respawning over and over again. So you have names you're giving all of the spawn points and shouting them out, and you're distributing your team around the area so you can all be able to see 2 or 3 of them from where you're standing and stuff like that. Like, that stuff's really cool, but it's so hard for the average person to experience it, which is why I can see why a lot of games don't do it. And now that I'm making videos all the time, I just can't. Like, when I was raiding, I was making I was putting up 1 video a day, which is our World of Warcraft series, and I wasn't recording anything.
That was fall 2014, right?
That was a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was fall 2014. Yeah, I mean, you were much smaller then, so it was kind of not as big of a deal.
Oh yeah, I didn't take my channel seriously at all. It was the side thing. I considered it my side thing compared to Sad Games at the time. So I was like, the video a day is fine. Sure.
I have a question from my chat that I think is kind of interesting. Somebody asks, they're wondering, basically, I'm going to paraphrase it, they want to know how you two are handling Nintendo's policy with regards to Breath of the Wild.
I mean, it just takes half of our money. Oh, well.
Oh, it's only half? I thought they took all of it.
Nope.
Okay. That's what I told them. I figured you just ate it.
If you don't sign in through the Nintendo Creators Program, they eat more of your money.
They take all of it.
How much more?
Yeah, I think actually just all of it. All
right.
But I mean, there's no reason why not to. So, like,
did they change it?
All right. What do you mean? Did they change it?
Did they change the Creators Program?
Not that I know. It's actually really easy to do. You just
at one point the Creators Program was like this nightmare where like you were basically signing on to be like a branch of Nintendo's PR arm, and you could only play whatever games they told you to play.
They changed their wording on that.
Okay.
I actually pretty much they listened to people panic about that. Like they heard that and they changed the contract almost immediately. From what I heard from Downright D-Pad, because pretty much their entire channel depended on Nintendo at the time. So
I guess I should look into that more then, because I've been not getting any ad revenue from any of my Zelda videos.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. All you have to do is you verify your channel with them, and they're like, "Yep, this is who you say you are." And then every time you upload a Zelda video, you're like, "All right, verify this video and this video and this video."
Every single video.
It sucks. I really wish I could actually just input, just claim everything from this playlist. That would be so much nicer. But what they do is they do a content ID match on the game, as they would normally. And then they take all of your ad revenue and they give it back to you later as like a separate thing, just like how I get paid.
Christ, do they hold it in escrow, or do they just take it and then cut you a check?
They just take it and then pay you later.
That's ridiculous.
It's backwards and crazy, but as far as backwards and crazy strategies,
they could just not do
honestly. Yeah.
They could just not do any of this. Like, what's the total money they're making off of YouTube videos on their games? Like, is it really worth all this heartache in the first place?
I'm gonna say they're probably made about
even with how much they probably have to pay Google to put this shit in for them. You know.
Yeah, I think they've made
I was actually
maybe
avoiding joining the
$50
Creators
off of
Club
me.
because last I heard it was just a nightmare scenario.
No, no, that's why I did Twilight Princess before Breath of the Wild, just to demo it out and see like, hey, would this work? And the answer is, yeah, actually fairly well. It's still stupid, but it works.
Very stupid.
I mean, just think about that. So, like, they had to pay Google. Google basically had to, like, get their legal people to come up with the contracts. They had to get their back-end engineers to come up with, like, the weird system to, like, make Nintendo's shit work alongside their other ID matching things. They had to get their front-end people to create the interface, which sounds like it's god-awful. Based on what you've described already.
It's mostly just annoying. It's like it's like if you didn't have the ability to checkmark boxes on your video manager and like monetize everything and stuff like that. Like there's no batch.
And then the thing is, like, you have to pay Google salaries to all these people too. So that's like it probably costs like $1 million or more easily to set all this stuff up, and then they probably have to pay people to then maintain it too. It does not sound like it could potentially. I don't know what sort of cost they feel like they're making up for this, but like I don't get why.
I think they feel justified with their actions, even if it's probably not making them any money.
It's one of those really awkward things where
though?
It's probably lawyer bullshit, like how Elder Scrolls was suing Scrolls for using the word scrolls.
Yeah, I mean, they have to do it to protect their IP so that somebody else can't come along and make, like, the ancient scrolls, because they're like, and then point to it and be like, well, they didn't care about scrolls. But
even though no one buys that franchise for the name Elder Scrolls, and a lot of people forget that it's called that in the first place, because it's like not even on the covers of these games anymore.
Skyrim, Morrowind, that's what people...
Yeah, I think it's not... Is Elder Scrolls even on some of the covers?
It's on all of them. And you have like a little dragony symbol.
Is it super tiny?
So. Yeah, it's like, it'll say like the Elder Scrolls Skyrim. You know? It'll be like the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. Like, it'll say that, but it will be very... It is much smaller if I remember. I'm going to look this up though. Just to double check here. I googled Skyrim, which...
Skyrim?
Yeah. Yeah. See, the box art says The Elder Scrolls 5 and then Skyrim in like 4 times the size font, and then a picture of a dragon. This is actually pretty cool looking box art.
I typed Skyrim, then I told Google off for trying to correct me and went for the actual search and found multiple incarnations of drinks with Skyrim labels. That's a variation of Skyrim.
Oh, I was thinking it was like rum ham.
And then I found a naked Khajiit lady.
Sky. Naked what now? Hang on, hold on. Let's not go past this conversation too quickly.
And then I found
birds being creepy again.
Never mind. You said Khajiit. I don't want it. No.
Then I saw a picture of a Khajiit staring at their own skeleton. I don't understand the internet. So, question for
Keith,
Max
have you ever
Damage.
tried to look at your own face?
I'm doing it right now, technically.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. I am too.
Yeah, I've got a preview window.
Oh well, disregard me. I was trying to be clever. Instead, I was an idiot.
Yeah.
Happened.
Go home and think about that for a while.
I am home and I am thinking about it.
Why would any of you consider doing a YouTube Red series? Why or why not?
I'm unfamiliar with the process.
We don't have the opportunity to do so. Like,
it would have to be offered to us, right?
Yeah, we would more or less have to sit there, and YouTube would be like, "We really like you, so we're going to film the TV show."
It's like being contacted by Netflix to do a Netflix original series. Like, you don't just choose to do it. Like, that's like that's a whole thing.
Right.
And I don't know why they'd ever reach out to us because wasn't Jesse Cox in the YouTube Red series?
I wouldn't be surprised, but Jesse Cox is in everything. That man has his thumb in so many pies that it's pie flavored.
It'd be one of those weird things where you're like being picked up for something that's kind of outside of what you do, but because you have a personality that a bunch of people are drawn to, so they're like, we'll use your personality for our other thing we had in mind and see how it goes. I don't know, I'd probably give it a go if it were to actually somehow happen at some point, because obviously it's a career move and it's good for networking because he'd be interacting with a whole bunch of people in the industry. But hopefully it's also paying you.
Every time I've ever heard of people doing moves like that, divorce from the concept of YouTube Red, but every time people go outside of their lane to try something for the sake of maybe it'll be a good move, it never is.
Jontron, Starcade.
Yeah.
They're like, he uploaded a vlog finally that was just like, Starcade was like an unmitigated disaster.
Right.
Like, he is explaining all the stuff that was going wrong with it and the behind the scenes nonsense and everything, and it was just a nightmare working with an outside company and everything.
Yeah. Or remember when Aaron Hansen went on to that game design contest, reality TV show, whatever?
Yeah. The game show.
That was...
The Tester. Oh, God. He still complains about how awful that experience was.
To be fair,
a 3-season reality show where people only know about one of the seasons specifically because he was on it.
Right.
Yeah. To be fair, that entire thing was
so
beyond bad.
So terrible.
Yeah.
I've seen decent versions of what the Tester wants to be, and it's kind of magic that they could fuck up that much, but they didn't, and hooray. I don't know.
It's garbage.
Yeah.
Like most of reality TV, it's mostly fake anyway. Like how he talked about how his interview went in the first or second episode or whatever, when they're pouring stuff on his head, and they just cut whatever scenes together they feel like to make whatever narrative they want, which was to make him look like an asshole in this case.
Yeah, they did. They edited it to make it look like he was way less cool with it than he was.
Yeah,
he said that made him he hated that about it.
They were asking him about his own channel and stuff like that. And then in the Tester's video, it's like he just comes out of nowhere to start bragging about his YouTube following and stuff like that. And they also make it seem like everybody hates each other on the show when he was talking about everyone being super chill and having a good time and enjoying their time there and stuff. But they just use any snippet they can.
Sell drama,
Yeah, I can't watch any forms of reality TV because of how nakedly fake a lot of it can be. Have I told you guys about what happened when I saw the freaking what's it called? Those ones where they were they go to people's places and get stuff that they could resell for more, but they're trying to bid.
American Pickers, maybe,
or something, or even the equivalent of Pawn Stars, or one of those many variants of that kind of stuff where they're trying to resell junk. There was one where they heard a story that's in the backyard of somebody's house. They buried some expensive relic of a car, basically, and they start digging back there. And they're like, "Oh no, we're not finding the car. We're finding all these pieces of a motorcycle instead. What are we gonna do?" And stuff like that. And they're slowly pulling out these pieces of motorcycle. And wow, we got a whole motorcycle over there. Then commercial break because they're all tragic. Oh no, we're never gonna find the actual car
for that motorcycle.
No, commercial break happens. They cut back to this thing, and suddenly oh, we found our first piece of the car. And then you look at the hole, and the hole is clearly smaller than it was before the commercial break, and the camera angle's in a different direction. There's a separate pile in the other direction for the car parts. They just arbitrarily split the two things separately from each other, because they were fighting both the whole time, but they framed the narrative like they were only finding one and then the other one, so they could create false drama when in reality nothing was even vaguely dramatic, and they're just actively lying to you. And I'm I can't take this. I can't take this.
I did not expect to hear this in-depth story about how
it matters
American
a lot
Pickers.
To keep.
I was sitting with 4 other people, and I point this out, and everyone's mad at me for pointing it out. And I'm why aren't you mad that they're lying to you? It's a reality show. The whole premise is that it's supposed to be real. I hate it. I can't watch it.
Do you remember that reality YouTube thing that Craddock kind of almost made?
No.
Kind of. I barely remember what you're talking about.
You mean the thing you were almost on?
Yeah, well, I was on, but it never went past the first recording session. I actually want to steal that idea from him, like, when I get a little bit larger and could actually sustain that sort of thing. Except for I want to just, like... Well, the idea was effectively you have, like, a bunch of different multiplayer games. You have 2 teams, and they're, like, you know, going through it.
Oh, that gotcha.
Yeah. But,
like a tournament a little bit.
I thought you were going to, like, do a, like, a reality TV show about, like, Let's Playing. Like, all right, so this is where I'm going to sit for the next 3 hours.
Of a competitive gaming show. Yay.
But, like, I want to do that, but no eliminations. It's just, like, the most positive reality TV show I can possibly, like, ham together. It'd be fun.
The hug circle of gaming.
Yeah, why not? I remember watching Penny Arcade's reality TV show about a strip search, about webcomics. That was, like, super unhappy. I had to, like, put it down because everybody was, like, bitter. And I was just like, you know, I'm just gonna be happy, like, just being happy over here.
Isn't that where We Don't Want You came from?
Yeah, that's exactly where it came from.
Real good.
Where it came from?
Camp We Don't Want You, the webcomic.
Oh.
Yeah.
But that webcomic's good.
Real good.
Yeah, it is.
It's real good.
Yeah, so, like, honestly, a lot of the people from that show are actually, like, really good at what they do. It's just, it was such a, like, weird, dramatized thing that it kind of messed with people's head. So, like, oh, what am I thinking? Like, they had, like, a bunch of really talented people that were, like, getting really snitty at each other for, like, sucking, and I'm like, I'm an artist, and I, like, if I was on the show, I'd probably just, like, sacrifice myself early on just so I'm like, I'm gone, bye. This isn't worth me being on this show. Why did you pick me to even be here? Kind of situation. Because, like, a lot of these people really, you know, would put me to shame, for example, and then it's just like, so why are they all being, like, complete, like, catty nonsense at each other? And I mean, really, it's the elimination and, like, the forced up drama, but I was just like, man, nobody is nice to each other, and this has stopped being fun.
It reminds me of how, like, for basically every season of Survivor, like, somebody would just give up within the first 5 weeks. I'm like, no, I actually just want to go. And they just would try to
blame them.
They would just, like, volunteer.
I could, you know, hang out and be miserable in the woods with a bunch of selfish pricks for 12 weeks.
And not win.
Or I could go home.
Yeah.
This is probably getting a little bit, nah, never mind. I'm not going to tell this story.
Yeah.
Well, I need to think about how to anonymize it, because it would be, like, super duper personal.
What was Bird's story?
I can probably anonymize this. Okay. So, one of my peers at work, we'll say, got invited to be on a reality TV show while he was working at another company, and he got through, like, the pre-screening phase or whatever, and then he wound up basically at, like, the sign the contract and then you're on the show phase. And he looked at the contract and the terms were insane, because it was like, you're going to be basically locked away for 12 weeks and you'll have no outside contact with the rest of the world at all. And this dude was a highly paid professional, probably making, like, over $120,000. And it was, like, basically saying, like, you're going to quit your job at a chance to win, like, X amount of money. And, like, good luck ever getting hired again, because everyone's going to be like, what the fuck were you thinking doing that?
Oh, yeah. Like, reality shows that where you actually leave where you live to go do the show elsewhere are, like, life destroyers.
They're insane. Yeah, you have to want it, like, so bad.
Like, Bernie Burns was on, the Great Race or whatever it's called, but, like, he only got to do that because he owns the company and no one's gonna fire him, so he could just leave for a few months. But, like, that's such a huge like that just disrupts your life.
Yeah. On top of that, he said that his I think it was his second kid at the time had just turned 1 month old, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go raise my child during their most important formative emotional years, instead of playing your reality TV show game.
Yeah.
The prizes aren't even that good, usually.
No, they're not.
like for Face Off and like a couple of the artist related ones, I can kind of understand it just because artists are like consistently shafted and desperate and stuff like
exposure.
That. Yeah, because like that would make sense. Like a coder,
it's like Shark Tank.
Yeah. Like I could kind of see it within like certain industries. Like hell, even like a reality TV show for prospective Let's Players, I could actually see kind of worth throwing your all into it just because that could actually like help you, but also desperation. But also like it's probably just better to spend your time and energy into something a little bit more less life destroying. So do we have any other questions instead of just ripping on reality TV shows?
That story actually reminded me a bit of like I just finished The People versus O.J. Simpson, the series.
The documentary?
Yeah,
nice.
not documentary.
Oh yeah,
it's an American Crime Story, which I am pretty sure is actually a spin-off of American Horror Story. Like it's the same. I think it's the same creators, so it has the same naming scheme, but obviously very different aesthetic. But the idea is possibly keep reusing the same cast, but do a different story entirely with different characters every season, which makes sense because Cuba Gooding Jr. is in both the new season of American Horror Story and he plays OJ. And a bunch of other characters, other actors show up, but like, yeah, but it's a pretty quality like drama at the very least. I have no idea how accurate a bunch of it is because I think the trial happened when I was 4. And I only ever heard about it. I
remember it to a point, but God, it was so crazy.
The only reason I know about it at all probably is because it's just the thing that keeps getting revived over and over again. Like he got arrested and is currently in jail for what he did in 2008, and that was why I learned about what happened in 1994.
He's in jail for life, actually, right now because of armed robbery.
No.
Right?
In jail for 33 years, and actually the motivation for this series, as is revealed when you finish the series and the credits roll at the end, is the series tells you he's up for parole. He's up for parole in 2017, or for appeal, I mean, or something like that. Like his chance of getting out of jail or something is this year, which apparently is why they made the series in the first place for this particular year. So that's real targeted, huh? But it's a 10-episode series, and the 8th episode is why I was thinking about that from what you said, because these people, the jury, were like, it was the same thing as the reality show thing where you're cut off for society, but that trial was like a year long. So those people were basically like locked in a hotel building for like a year where they're not allowed to have TV. And
they're getting paid like, what, $50 a day or something like that?
Yeah, like they don't have TV, and they're just like, they just hang out they're not supposed to talk to each other or the people outside. Like they just sit in a hotel room all day, and they come down a few times a day for like meals, and that's like their life. And like they have to go around like a freaking field trip.
That would be awful.
Yeah, like they go on field trips with like armed security whenever they want to go to like Ross's and Target and stuff like that.
I don't want to wind up on jury duty.
It's fucking terrifying. Holy crap.
Lady Bird is giving me quite the stink eye right now.
Compensation's a bit better than like $50 a day. Though it's largely based on what you make normally, which is kind of butts if you don't make a lot of money. My mother gets paid just as much.
It depends on the state, right?
Oh, that's a good point.
Like,
she's in Massachusetts. This is like Florida, isn't it?
In Maryland, yeah, that all occurred in Florida. But in Maryland, it was not like it was basically just like flat, like $50 a day.
I think it also depends what kind of jury you're on. If you're just on one case,
probably, yeah.
Because my mother was on the grand jury.
True.
So that's also like a different point too. Because she was getting paid and like had perks and stuff, and she's like, yeah, my I can't get fired for this, and I get like half days. She was like bragging about jury duty. I'm like, oh, I guess it's not as bad.
No, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think I don't remember like what the people in my life have done in terms of jury duty, but I think that it's mostly just been like really low offense stuff, not like presiding over the O.J. Simpson trial.
Have you
the
guys
entire world's looking at it.
Have you guys ever been called in for the jury?
Nope. I have not, no.
Oh, I had that experience.
How did you get out of it?
I didn't. So what happened is I get called in. I had to go to the neighboring town and hang out all day and stuff. Weirdly, got seated directly next to my high school history teacher, and this was a year after graduating high school. So this was a weird.
That's kind of funny.
Weird coincidence.
Hi, Mr. Tillerman. I always knew I'd see you here.
I want to say it was some kind of trial about like child abuse alleged or something like that, and so everybody's going up and giving their excuses to get them to get off the jury as they all get caught up one by one. And a lot of people don't seem to give any excuses and seem like just legitimate, but they get dismissed anyway. I spent so many hours watching people get dismissed. I actually found myself wanting to beat the game, basically. Like, the inherent part of me that wants to win at something sometimes just was like seeing so many people get dismissed that I kind of wanted to not get dismissed. Just
you wanted to see if you could qualify.
Yeah, like just so many people got dismissed.
That is actually hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of see that, right? Like, so many people get kicked out of a thing. Like, you want to see like what it takes to not get kicked out of a thing. Never found out. I never got called. So I just sat there all day until finally the jury gets selected, and then I just went home. And I'm like, that was a nothing day. But I just imagine how much like glamorous. Being stuck on the jury and not like, especially if you're a sequestered jury, like how much that would ruin like running a YouTube channel. Like, what if you just can't do your job for 3 months?
Well, I wonder. They're aware of that, and they try to make sure that your compensation and like laws will protect you as a juror.
Yeah, I wonder what would happen.
There's a practical limit.
I wonder what would happen if you or I got called away and we're like, look, if I actually have to go away for, like, the projected year here, it will destroy my life. Like, I wonder if...
Well, then you get dismissed, and then that's it.
That's the,
fair enough.
That's an interesting thing about selection bias, then, isn't it? Like, it's both juries and reality shows have this cross-section of anybody who's actually a working professional that has shit to do and will be disrupted by not doing their job for months, can't do the thing. So in a weird way,
that means that every jury ever is staffed by reality TV stars. No,
which maybe explains certain elements of why
why society is the way it is,
or why certain verdicts come out the way they do is maybe because you get the people that star in reality shows are the same people that star in. That go on juries.
Star in juries. This is gonna be my big break. I'm gonna be on the O.J. Simpson jury, and then I'm gonna do the talk show circuit afterwards. I'm gonna appear on Maury Povich.
Dude, I knew a person in high school who wanted to be a professional witness / like member of the jury.
How do you be a professional witness?
I know, that's my question. They never gave me an answer.
I don't think they thought that went through.
You just stalk criminals and then like try to catch them in the act,
like
but not be a police officer.
I think the closest thing to a professional witness would be a coroner, like the type of person that gets called up, like somebody like an autopsy specialist. I think is technically a witness when they get called up.
They're an expert witness, but they're a forensic scientist.
But that's
they're not.
I'm saying like that's the closest thing to a professional witness that exists. I think is somebody who regularly weighs in on those things because they're the ones that do analysis of crime scenes. I think that's
that
about
actually makes a lot of sense.
That's true.
You can't just be professionally the guy who always witnesses crimes. I'm clairvoyant. I always know where crimes will happen, but I'll never stop them.
I always know where crime. Yeah.
This is weird.
This is a weird topic.
New
that
question
we went down.
I like it, from Gavin Moretter.
Hi, Gavin. How you doing?
What is your favorite game from 2016?
From 2016? God, what even came out that year?
The Witness. That's mine. Because I loved it so much.
The Witness was excellent. Dark Souls 3.
Dark Souls 3 is pretty good. It's pretty much a tear between those two for me, but Dark Souls 3 is so derivative of the rest of the series because it's a sequel to like, which Witness is so special in a way that
Stardew Valley,
Dark Souls
that was
isn't.
a good one too.
Oh yeah, Stardew Valley was good, but I want to actually say Stardew Valley is probably going to be my favorite game from 2018.
Yeah,
or whenever it's like 1.0 in multiplayer. Like I have the same problem with like with Astroneer. Astroneer is one of my favorite games from last year, and it barely worked. And it's kind of one of those where it's like, it's probably going to be one of my favorite games from 2017 when I go back to it. and the game functions and has like most of its features, and multiplayer isn't like a broken mess, and it's like, yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah, release dates have become so nebulous that it's hard to even consider this topic for certain games. Like Factorio launched on Steam in February 2016.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be your favorite no matter what.
But like, I think it existed before then, but also it's not done still. Like, when is Factorio? What do you count as the Factorio release date at some point?
Factorio and RimWorld are like mini dwarf fortresses where they will end sometime within the next decade.
Yeah.
I think my favorite game of 2016 is Pokemon Go.
Yeah. You monster.
For a while, actually, my favorite game of 2016 was Undertale. But I don't know.
That was 2015, dude.
Yeah, that was 2015
wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was sorry.
It was in my video for the previous year, is how I remember it. I used it as the font.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought, actually. And then I looked it up, and I was like, initial release date 2016.
Yeah.
For Linux. So, you're right. It was 2015, and I was just like, I thought something was like totally wrong about that.
Yeah, and these things are always subject to change because you play. We'll be playing games from 2016 for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got around to Doom. It was fantastic. I didn't play it until mid 2017.
I'm still playing No Man's Sky. It's actually substantially better, which is nice.
I love Witness so much for its continual sense of discovery, which is why I never want to talk about The Witness. But the number of things and interesting developments over the course of just experiencing The Witness blind, and mixed with its beauty and its elegance of design and its careful, meticulous construction, because they obsessed over it for like a decade. Like,
it's a hard game to talk about, though, right? Because
it's a hard game to make.
True, but like, outside of like a very small pool of people that I think that game was really reaching out to, I think nobody really gives a shit about The Witness or likes it or wants to acknowledge its existence at all.
It did not make the waves of discussion, I don't think, that Braid did.
No. But like, the people that do enjoy The Witness, like on a really deep level, like, there's not really anything to talk about it, honestly. You just, like, gush over how good it is. And
you just, like, remember that one part where the thing?
Yeah, it was great.
Because you're going to talk with other people that already experienced everything in likely the same way that you did. And if you didn't, then you're spoiling it for them, and you shouldn't keep talking.
Yeah, well, also, if they didn't, then they're never going to, because it's a game you basically instantly like it or hate it.
Yep.
It will not grow on people, which is kind of a rare trait, but it's like, if you play the first, like, 3 puzzles and then go, that's it, well, then you might as well install the game. Yeah.
Well, the end.
Yep, you're right. But no, I do think that The Witness probably would be one of my favorite games of 2016.
I'm going to be really, really weird, and this is going to sound like I'm saying it ironically, but actually No Man's Sky is probably one of my favorites. Mainly because I just can't remember most games, and I don't want to say Scrap Mechanic, because at this point I'm so burnt out on it.
It's not 2016, though.
Scrap Mechanic was 2016.
No, it wasn't.
Yep. January 18th.
Before then, right?
January 18th, 2016.
That cannot be true, because we played... Wait.
Nope. Yeah.
Is it true?
Yeah.
Holy,
it is.
What?
Yeah.
Hold on.
I've also been
this
putting
isn't
out
real.
I've also been putting out Scrap Mechanic videos pretty much once a day. So like, go back.
January 2016. God damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Or maybe it was 20th. I don't know. I don't remember. I just remember.
No, 2016 is probably when it hit like a
No.
full.
No.
No.
Yeah.
I can't believe this.
I'm trying to research things too, even though I don't necessarily care. Does Scrap Mechanic not have its own Wikipedia page?
No, it doesn't have a Wikipedia entry.
That's not
That's
cool.
pretty weird.
It has its own wiki, but not its own Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes it harder to look up.
I'm at the indiedatabase.com, which is a website that's completely fucking broken. There it goes. Now it's looking better. All right. Early access January 19th, 2016.
The game entered beta during late 2015, according to the Scrap Mechanic Wikipedia.
But we didn't have it on Steam until January.
Nobody had access to that. Yeah.
Wow.
They handed the game out.
Think
on
about
the
all the crazy shit that's happened in a single year.
Yep.
Oh yeah, demos were given out to various YouTube content creators.
Yeah, so we didn't get access to it.
So some people had it in 2015, but yeah, it wasn't on Steam until January 20th, 2016.
That's amazing.
Can you believe that Scrap Mechanic's only been in your life for like a year?
It feels like it's been in my life for like 2 years almost. That's so hard to believe, man. I'm just thinking about like what was my life back in January 2016. It was before my job. It was before my second internship. I still was in school.
Moved in that time?
You were thankful that I threw $60 at you for your birthday. Like that is how much of a like difference there was.
Hey, that $60 went a long way. I did my taxes, and I was just like, "Good God, how did I afford to eat last year?"
Magic and Ladybird.
It's insane.
I wonder how many times.
A fair bit.
I wonder how many times our group has exchanged money and where like the total turns out.
I think we're probably all dead even with each other, honestly.
Because I paid.
Oh wait, I don't think I've ever bought.
I paid Wander for my art. And then I think he sent you that money for your stuff, and
I did buy you Turing Test. That's correct.
Yeah. Though I bought you Stellaris, so I don't want to do this
either.
I don't want to do Stellaris. It's a trap.
I want to play Stellaris so bad, but I can't, in good conscience, suggest it because I know poor Keith would have like a fit.
Well, he's not here right now.
Uh-huh.
I absolutely want to play Stellaris. But right, this specific month's real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we said about last month, too.
Well, so March and April...
I've been up for Stellaris multiple times in the past, but then we keep starting other games, and I'm like, okay, we'll finish this game and then do something else. Because I don't want us to stack like 4 multiplayer games. was kind of a better
post-podcast thing anyway, because Chelle is involved and stuff like that. Yeah. But like, February and March have just been like, stupid. Probably not, but like...
I just don't want to
stack... would be very like...
She might be awake for it.
Shellism.
Like, weird arbitrary stuff we play with the larger group is fine, but for our specific group of like 3 or 4 people, I think we should always start one thing and then finish it, then start a new thing, because otherwise we will arbitrarily keep starting new things and then leave a bunch of stuff to rot and then never go back to it, which is what happened in the past. So I try not to have us go into weird tangents constantly. Remember when you uploaded Grim Dawn,
like episodes 1 and 2, like the day after we started playing it,
and then
we didn't play it again for 2 months?
Didn't have a computer for a month? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a shitty friend.
Or all of our MMO playthroughs that started, technically.
I don't know, man. MMOs, I don't feel like I'm in the zone. I have a good time playing them, but I feel like I'm just like on autopilot for it, and then maybe to you guys it seems like I'm way more disengaged as a result, because I'm not being my usual like oh, Bird's gonna make a joke about shitting on the bathroom floor because he didn't know how to use the toilet right.
I lost where the sentence was going a little bit.
Well, I was making a callback to an episode of Scrap Mechanic that was filmed very recently.
And that I wasn't in.
No, you weren't. I was hoping Wander would giggle, but no,
he doesn't listen.
He's too busy. He's too busy bearding it and playing, like basically
Weapon
the
Shop
glorified
Fantasy.
Flash game that is Weapon Shop
all
Fantasy.
All of these Scrap Mechanic videos have blended together in my head so much that like you make a reference to it unless it's like, no wait, no shit. Drank Dude was
it was
golf.
It a Scrap Mechanic? It was golf. It was golf,
dude. Like. The problem is we have so many dumb in-jokes and, like, weird shit that we've come up with that, like, over the course of the past year...
Hey, Drank Dude is not your in-joke or my in-joke. It's one of my friend's in-jokes from high school that I breathed new life into randomly while playing a mini golf game.
Tomato potato. Delicious tomato potato.
Boom. Just got the time codes for the previous podcast. Shout out to Ryan Richter, who is going through our podcast and submitting time codes so that I can have those.
It's very neat. Like,
he's experiencing the same frustration that I was having, which is we change topics mid-topic so many times that it's impossible. It's so hard to keep track of what even topics are. But people want time codes, but I don't know. It's such a... It's not like if we had dedicated topics, we're going to talk to this for 20 minutes, that's for 20 minutes, and no divergence of any kind, and it'd be super controlled. The podcast would probably it'd probably be less entertaining because of how frustratingly rigid the whole thing would be, but it would certainly be easier to figure out time codes for everything. But like, I hit a point where like if I wanted to do time codes for these podcasts, I would have to re-listen to the entire podcast from scratch every podcast.
Oh God!
And I genuinely don't have the time.
Yeah,
but now we're getting fan submitted ones, which are great.
That's good. Yes, shout out to them. Thank you for doing that. It's really interesting to me to hear people like talk about how they enjoy this podcast, because the early feedback was like trash. Like, people thought like this was like so terrible and like so uninteresting. But I feel like there's like a certain niche of like our perspective amalgam of fan base that like there are people that genuinely like really look forward to this. And
there's also a thing where anything you start goes poorly at first because it's not the thing that people are already here for.
It's different.
It's not Scrap Mechanic.
Like,
go play more Scrap Mechanic instead.
I stopped streaming the podcast because half the comments were people on the live stream of the podcast were just people being confused about what a podcast was.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to start playing this game? I'm like, no, it's a podcast. And like, what's a podcast? I'm like, all right, maybe the stream's not a great idea.
Yeah.
Like, it'll just go up when it goes up.
There are some people that I've gotten feedback for that say like, oh man, I really loved the podcast last weekend. And I'm really? Oh, that's cool. Because like, I didn't hear, that's like the first I'm hearing of it. Because usually I just hear like, hey, can you never podcast again, please? Yeah,
one of the things that's weird about doing YouTube content in general and stuff is getting constant negative feedback for everything, despite the fact that everything's getting more and more views and more likes over time. All the comments are about how your stuff sucks. Yeah, it's hard to differentiate the two sometimes. But yeah, like a large number of people have just been silently enjoying the podcast and not saying anything or anything. But then, like, the moment the podcasts are gone for a while, you hear about it, for example, and you're like, oh, people cared when they were here.
Kind of in the same vein, I've been getting a lot of like responses to my AMA and some other things from like YouTubers, especially like YouTubers that quit when we were starting, you know, kind of like the 2013 to 2015. And they're like, you were so nice to me back then. And I'm like, I remember you, which is really weird. But also it's just like this weird thing. It's like people know I exist because, you know, so often you just throw videos into the wild, like you get comments, but like, generally, all of the interaction is there in relation to what you're doing, and it's weird to be recognized outside of that. Like, we were playing Night in the Woods, and Chelle was talking to one of our friends after the fact, and they were talking about Night in the Woods, and the friend was like, hey, you know, I've been watching this Let's Play of it, and like, so-and-so.
That's Chelle's funny. Like, they didn't realize it was...
They didn't realize it was us, and you know, she was very complimentary, but it was just this like really goofy, like weird, like recognized outside of my field, and I'm like, shit, I'm getting there, and I don't know.
Oh my god.
Just don't burn out there and let that fame go to your head and be like...
I don't think I ever am going to. Though it is bizarre, going back to the anime convention thing, it is so weird, because Chelle will like constantly like be talking to people about like kind of how our life goes, and she's like, and he's a YouTuber, and I'm like, don't look at me. Like, I'm sitting there and like, I'm like, I was so cold this weekend. I think I was underneath a vent or something like that, so I had a hoodie on, and it's like a brown hoodie, so I don't look particularly exciting, and I've got like a plaid rabbit fur hat on and headphones, and I've got like bad drawings in front of me, and I hear like, and he's a YouTuber, and I look up and I'm like, deer in headlights, like mostly unshaven, and it's just like, no.
I will say, like, as more and more people like recognize me, mostly by proxy of recognizing you, but like as people like try to reach out to me and contact me and stuff like that, I find that I like am retracting more and more away from that and becoming like a lot less like, I'm so much more awkward engaging with my fans now, or like any fans at all. I'm just like, I don't know what it is, but just the same thing of just like, well, please don't acknowledge my existence right now.
For me, like, if it ever happened in public, like, I think it's way easier to interact with somebody who's like a fan than interact with somebody who just heard you're a YouTuber, because I hate that. I hate that so much.
And that's probably like even worse.
Because then,
I almost never get that.
They're like, how does your lifestyle exist?
I hate explaining it to people. I can't stand it because like it's so conceptually weird, and in a weird way, by explaining it, you kind of have to like try to justify your own existence in a way that I don't like doing. And it's like, I don't know, I fell into it and it's working out, and I'm just going for it. Yay! And then I don't want to. I never want to show anyone my stuff because it's like. It comes with an inherent like it's hard enough to show somebody like a funny video you found on the internet and then we'll show this and see them not react to it, but like showing them the thing you supposedly do for a job that's entertaining to someone and then like that chance of them finding it entertaining
so you
is so
just play
garbage.
Video games and you're like, please God, can I not have this conversation anymore?
I have kind of like the weird opposite version where like for whatever reason around here people know that like YouTubers and Let's Players are a thing. So there's this guy at Whole Foods that we see whenever we go there. He recognizes me because I'm always wearing a nerdy shirt. He's like, "Hey, how's your channel doing?" And I'm like,
"Oh, that's kind of cool."
Yeah, I mean it's super cool, but like
it's a small town feeling, man. It's the whole point of moving to where the fuck you are right now.
I live.
Isn't Kansas City big?
Mall. Yeah, it's huge. I live in Strip Malltopia. This is not a like small town at all.
Yeah. Like I grew up in a smallish town that only existed because two freeways intersect there.
I was gonna say though, I ran into my first Periscope person ever today too. Actually, sort of.
Periscope
one was a famous manga artist who was streaming the entire time he was at the convention, like with his phone, to a live audience apparently. So that was kind of weird, just because this like dead-faced Japanese like middle-aged dude goes by with his phone held out, and Shell's like, Shell doesn't like it when people take photos or videos of like her stuff because she's kind of possessive of it. Makes sense. But this deadpan guy just goes by with his like phone held out, and Shell's like moving to like block him or stop him, and he's already gone. And I'm like, Shell, that was like the artist for Fairy Tail, like just leave him alone. And it just was such a weird experience. And then like maybe a couple hours later, this like small girl goes by, and she's doing kind of the like overblown PewDiePie like animated talking about whatever. And it was weird because she was talking to no one and she had her phone out, and Shell's like doing it again, and she's like, "Oh no, I'm streaming," and then she like zips past, and it's just like, what?
That's funny.
It was funny. I wanted to like flag her down and figure out what her channel was so I could like see if she was anybody, because like it's weird to interact with this, because for me, I'm such an anonymous existence most of the time that like running into like, I want to meet another YouTuber in the wild, not on YouTube, so I can like have an honest conversation of like, you're a person in real life that I don't know beforehand.
That's one of those things I can't imagine doing.
Yeah,
exactly. That's why I want to do it.
Small number.
I can't ever imagine being like the person walking around in public talking to a tiny device. Like, yeah, this is my thing, and I'm just ignoring everyone around me, and like this is super weird. And I'm like, I'd have to like I can only ever justify doing it if I have a giant, ridiculous like '90s style like news camera pointing at me that makes it super clear that this is a thing. Because otherwise, it's like super. It seems super like conceited and douchey.
You have too much shame. Yeah,
like public vloggers. Like I watch people that technically vlog in public, but it looks so painful to do.
Bird,
What's
if
up,
we
Bird?
if we ever go to a convention with Keith, I think we should bring cameras and stream it.
Like I watch vlog. I still watch
Keith the experience.
Like I still watch Vlogbrothers constantly, but they sometimes do a episode in an airport because they have to, and I'm like, people are watching. How are you doing this? I don't know how you take that. By the way, this is
all right. Well, it's been 2 hours, so we should definitely wrap things up.
This is a dumb aside.
This is like one of the. Okay, fine. Here we go.
It's a dumb aside, but I opened your website. I opened Bird's profile when we were talking, and I saw that like the older podcasts are still going up, and I scrolled down to podcast 5, which is a podcast where I abruptly get a haircut and shave for my mom's wedding, and I haven't had a haircut since that podcast.
Oh, Jesus.
So
oh, Jesus,
I can
Keith,
watch my
no.
hair grow in your thumbnails because you don't have thumbnails on any of the podcasts. So I can watch my own hair grow from week to
I figure
week.
the still shot is good enough for the podcast.
That's super weird.
I actually really like Keith's thumbnails.
His thumbnails are great, but if I put up the same thumbnail as everyone else, then I'm kind of just like...
There was some
What's the
person that
point?
left a weird comment like you were stealing the thumbnails, and I'm like, no, they just all have the same thumbnails in all the channels. That's fine.
If Keith didn't send me the thumbnails, the chances of me putting up a podcast drop by like a significant amount.
Because you won't make thumbnails for them, but also won't upload things without thumbnails.
That's pretty funny that you can see that, though. All right, so this is the end of the podcast. We usually end on much, much, much more awkward notes than this. How can we ruin this? We have about 1 minute to go.
I know how I can ruin this.
Go.
So, okay. We're just gonna abruptly cut the moment this is over.
No. I got a story if we want to ruin things.
Well, I was just gonna read the next question from that one person, but then just cut the
no,
podcast.
let's not do that. Let me tell my awkward story instead. So
Yeah.
at the convention, I had to go to the bathroom. Obviously, normal thing. It's
Obviously.
yeah. Well, I mean, I was there for like 10 hours. Of course, I needed a shit. But so I'm there. I shit. I'm on the toilet and I look at the toilet paper. Now it's there. It's just out of arm's
Is there
reach.
like anime girls on
The
it?
entire
No.
toilet paper was
It's-
pictures of
it's
your
like-
face.
It's like, I want to say it was like 4 feet away. I could just barely reach it if I leaned all the way over and stretched.
The toilet paper was coming from inside the house.
But the problem is, every time I leaned over to get toilet paper, the toilet would flush. Now, I just shit, but like, I don't want to like move off because I haven't wiped yet. It's gross, and every time I lean over to get more toilet paper, I suddenly get a sprinkle bath, and I'm like, this is the most disgusting thing I've experienced in quite some time. Is that good?
That's great, Wander. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, man.
I have actually I have a similarly gross story where
Fuck off.
yesterday we had
All right. No, 3, 2, 1, end
we're
this.
doing it. We had a game.
God damn it.
So we had a game night yesterday, and we played Secret Hitler, and we played a few other games, and we had a good time. But at the end of the day, I hadn't eaten all day, and I had cake because there was cake, and still hadn't eaten all day. And I assume that's what went wrong, because out of nowhere, I just started feeling nauseous. So I just start violently vomiting in the bathroom after just walking off without saying anything to anybody. And they had turned on music so they could stop hearing me vomit.
Oh.
To drown out just the sound, because apparently they could hear me. And that's fun to walk in on, and apparently everyone looking at you.
What music was? Do you know what band it was?
It was just...
Get down with the sickness.
It was some kind of background noise stuff. It was. It sounded
I was
like.
gonna say if it was like
It could have been like
if
Diablo
it was like
music or
cake.
something.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
you got like
Cake.
pity caked.
No.
It'd be funny if it was that one Taylor Swift song where it's like, blah, trouble, trouble, trouble.
I just have the fun
Keith
experience
vomit.
of walking back in while everyone looks at me like something's wrong with me. It's like, okay.
And then you gotta deliver an
Yay.
80s sitcom line. Like,
That was kind
it
of the
wasn't
experience. That was kind of the experience when we visited Stainless and Chelle kept throwing up because airport food plus plane sickness. So
Like,
she like had to throw up 3 times, and they're like, "Is she okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, she's fine."
I was just like, I don't have anything to say about this. Like, I'm not sick, and I haven't thrown up in like 2 years. It just happened, and now it's over.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Throwing up is one of those things that doesn't happen very often after a certain age. But before that age, it's just
Yeah,
like,
unless you're very sick or you like to drink.
or you're a baby.